Hello, hello, and welcome to another Career Path series with the MBA program. And you've got everybody here today. We've got DeLauren, our student advisor, Kirsten Hansen, our student engagement coordinator, and the MBA director, Ernie Silvers. Woo!
Ta-da! The one and only.
and Molly, of course, that's me. I am the recruiter, the marketing specialist for this program. And so just want to welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so happy to have you here. And today we are joined by Dr. Selina Palmer. She is the owner of Little Tigers Dojang. So she was just telling me, I referred to it as a dojo, but because it is Korean, it's actually referred to as a dojang. So I'm going to go ahead and invite her and Ernie to go ahead and start our program. Just one moment before I do, I will mention that if you have any questions, please do put those in the chat. We'll be happy to answer those for you today, and we'll be monitoring the chat. And also, please do keep yourself on mute unless we invite you to ask questions more toward the end, because that way we'll be able to hear what Selina is sharing with us today. So I would like to go ahead and turn it over to Ernie and Selina.
All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Happy you're here. Selina, you and I talked yesterday, and I'm excited to have you. So I'm gonna just let you take it away and tell the folks about you and what you do. And mostly we're interested in, how did you get here? So tell us your story.
Hi, everyone. So I started training in martial arts when I was 5 years old, and I've been teaching since I was 10, helping my instructor. And unfortunately, he passed away in 2009, and the instructors and I did not want to see the studio close. And so I became a business owner very young. I was 19 years old when I took over the business, and there was a lot I did not know about business, and I wanted to be educated and knowledgeable about business practices. So I enrolled at Cal State San Bernardino for my bachelor's in business. And I ended up also liking it so much that after my bachelor's degree in business, I pursued a master's degree. And I learned a lot from the entrepreneurial program that's very valuable about client retention and about things that I didn't know starting out, such as how to get a business license and file that through the county office. And I later decided to do a doctorate in public administration. And so I was going to talk a bit about two things: how we survived COVID and I did not have to take out any business loans, and how I attribute that to the MBA program, and also about how I used my networking skills to help me when I completed my dissertation. So as you know, during COVID, a lot of things shut down, and I was in the middle of my data collection for my dissertation. So the way a dissertation works is you have to write your research before you gather your data. So I had written 250 words about why martial arts is a benefit to students, and why I wanted to show how a public school program, or how a nonprofit working with public schools as an after-school program, is a benefit to students. And I personally taught in an after-school program as well at 5 different locations throughout San Bernardino, and also in Fontana, Rialto, and Colton. And one thing I noticed was that students that previously did not have any career plans were finishing their homework, their behavior had changed. They were asking me, Master Palmer, I love karate so much, and I've learned a lot of discipline, self-discipline, and confidence. I think I want to pursue higher education now. I didn't before think I wanted to go to college, and now I have this confidence in myself that it's transferred over into my schoolwork as well. And so I wanted data that showed how valuable a martial arts program is for anyone, especially students. And unfortunately, when COVID happened, all of the schools shut down, and the nonprofits that I had to back my study, called me and said, well, Selena, I'm very sorry, but unfortunately, we cannot be a part of your study any longer because we're not actually operating in public schools because the schools are not open. So imagine being told you might not graduate if you can't get a program to demonstrate your data that you have to do it on a program, right? So I made about 50 calls throughout the entire United States. I was very desperate, calling multiple locations. No, I'm sorry, we're shut down. We're shut down. So I had been training in Jeet Kune Do in LA through a friend, and I actually got to meet Grandmaster Leo Fong, who he's now passed. He made it to 93, and he used to train with Bruce Lee in the 60s. And I remember being at training because he was my Sifu, and he goes, Selena, you look a little sad. Is there anything going on? I said, well, I don't know how I'm going to complete my study of my dissertation if I don't have something to back it up, like a program. So he said, well, why don't you call Chuck Norris? And I thought, Chuck Norris, he's a huge celebrity, right? He's not going to want to talk to me. So I remember Dr. Stoll in the entrepreneurship program talked about how you have to get going when the going gets tough, and you'll never know if you don't try. So I ended up emailing Kickstart, and to my surprise, they answered me, and I went through about 6 interviews with their legal team, and I did end up using Kickstart as a program for my dissertation, and I was able to interview the first instructor that actually was in the first public school that Kickstart was in. And Joey said that the students changed a lot. So they went from having students steal teachers' cars out of the parking lot to deciding that they wanted to go to college and were top-notch students. And that was a huge testament to the Kickstart program.
So they were stealing, wait, students were stealing cars out of the school's parking lot?
Yes.
Not your Dojang, right?
No, this was where the first school that Kickstart actually, when Chuck Norris began the program, they wanted an intervention type program in a school. So they actually started it in a school in Texas with the worst juvenile crime rate in the entire state. And Chuck Norris partnered with President Bush at the time to start the karate program, and it was hugely successful. And so because of that, they did expand, and I was able to talk to most of their instructors about the program. And I see we do have a question down here. I can answer that. What is exactly the business model of a martial arts organization? Is there other sources of revenue besides group classes? That's a great question. You can conduct private classes. So private lessons, you do usually charge more depending on the rank of the instructor. So I don't like to charge a lot for private lessons. I like to keep it a little bit lower just as a benefit to my clients. But usually private lessons for someone of my rank, like a 6th Dan instructor or 6th degree black belt, is about $150 an hour. So pretty high. And also the business model, I would say for each organization can be different. So for me, I'm relatively small because it's me and a few instructors, and we're very particular about making sure that each of our instructors have the same teaching style so that our clients feel like they're always familiar with each instructor, that they teach along the same lines. It just makes our clients very comfortable and the parents comfortable that the kids are working with an instructor that, does the same sort of things so they don't get confused. But some martial arts organizations will hire instructors from other places and then train them in their program, and the model could look different for each system based on how you want it to be. I hope that answers the question. So back to what I was talking about, Kickstart anyway expanded, and they were in over 60 public schools, and I was able to use that as support for my dissertation which was really exciting. And I never foresaw that that would happen. So, you never know where your networking is going to take you. Had I not networked and been going to LA to train and talk to Grandmaster Fong, I would have never called Kickstart, and I would have probably maybe been struggling to still find a program that was open, which Texas schools were operating during COVID. So they did have martial arts programs still running and students were still going to school, but California was completely shut down.
That's an amazing story, Selina. That's amazing that you got to connect with Kickstart. How, I think earlier, quite a bit earlier, you mentioned that your dissertation, how long did that end up being? Just a fun little question.
Yes, it was 250 pages, and that's the longest thing I've ever written in my life.
I
And
bet.
luckily it was during COVID, so in some ways I had a lot of time. But I mean, I guess in some ways it was a benefit, right? Not to say that that was happy, because obviously it was a very rough time for many people. I mean, I lost my grandfather as well at that time to COVID, so it was very sad. But I did have a lot of time on my hands, and so I guess that was a benefit to have the time to write it out, which was good for me at least.
So Selina, I have a question. Your studio, if you will, lost its owner. You chose to take it over. What drove that decision? I mean, how do you decide to become business owner from student employee?
That's a good question. Well, I had always had a passion for teaching, and I really loved teaching the students. And I had also just been promoted to my master rank, which is the 4th degree black belt. And when you're a master rank, most masters, if they go that high, they usually choose to operate their own school. And it had been a dream of mine from the time I was young. I always had wanted my own. I kind of envisioned going into business or maybe opening up my own dojo one day. I really had that vision. That's why I tested for the master rank. But I just didn't know it was going to be that soon.
So you used your furthering education to prepare you to operate the business. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes. The classes, the accounting classes we took really helped, and understanding how to not just account for your fixed costs, but also you're going to have unanticipated costs, and to be frugal with your spending. And I do believe that because we were more frugal with our spending, which means that you save, that's part of what helped us navigate through COVID. We also conducted surveys to find out what worked for students. So did they prefer Zoom or private YouTube link instruction, or did they want in person? And then we used one of our community partnerships to actually move only about 4 more extra minutes to a different location outside. That gave us the availability to still provide in class or in person instruction when a lot of places couldn't. And then we could still pay our rent even if we weren't at the actual site. So it's definitely the surveys. I learned a lot about surveys in my statistics classes, and that was a benefit for us to find out what each student preferred.
So you actually use the instruction. That's useful. That's the way you're supposed to do it. So you become a business owner, not really planning to be a business owner, but now my question is, you credit Dr. Stahl for helping you along. Would you consider yourself an entrepreneur now?
I definitely would, yes. And we've definitely expanded some of our services, which I think it's a good question what the student asked, because you can offer trainings. So one thing you can do is you can offer seminars where you kind of act as a mentor to other beginning studio owners. And then if you charge a small fee, they're actually, interviewing you to learn more about how you run your business and what could possibly work for them. And they're using a successful studio as a model for how they may want to pursue theirs. And so there's different ways that you can market and different ways you can bring in revenue rather than just teaching self-defense.
Mhm. Mhm. So what does an average day in the life of a
You can kind of use.
okay,
Oh, an
let
average
me
day in the life
yeah,
of
well, what's
Master
it
Palmer
yeah, what does it look like for
or a
Master
business
Palmer, right?
owner. Um, well, yesterday we're actually fundraising right now.
Oh,
So a
okay.
lot of what I do personally is we put a lot of our money back into helping the students, which not every business I would say does. I think we operate almost in some ways more like a nonprofit. So we've been able to make some extra revenue in the last couple of months, and we're actually using that to send our students to the Phoenix tournament so that they don't have to pay their own way. It's actually paid for them. All they have to do is travel to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So we pay their hotel, and then we also pay for their entry fee, and that's a way that we try to give back to the families, and that way more students have availability to attend than
Mm-hmm.
maybe if they couldn't before.
Okay.
So our fundraising, I actually hauled a couple pieces of furniture. So that was my day yesterday. And it's quite busy as a business owner. A lot of times you're answering calls in the middle of what you're doing. It's not really like an 8 to 5 job like people think of. It's like, oh, I think people have this idea like, well, if I'm the boss, I can show up when I feel like it. That's not the case. Like you're usually always um, coming up with new ideas, or you're having to, I have clients or parents text me with concerns, or my student's sick, I can't come in tonight. So I'm pretty much having my phone on pretty much all the time, just so that I am available. And that makes it a better experience when the parents like, oh, okay, can I pick up their uniform Tuesday, their patches were sewed on, and if you answer quickly, it's just a better experience for them. So I think there's a lot of dedication that a business owner has to have, and you're working on off hours a lot of times. So and you want to give your clients a good experience. So if you're willing to do that, it'll be a benefit to you.
Okay, so trick question here. Not many of us, except for Kirsten maybe, have a black belt like you, or are masters like you. And seriously though, how does that help you as a business owner? So martial arts is about discipline. It's about self-confidence. How does that, or does that help you as a small business owner, entrepreneur?
It definitely does. I would say that I'm the face of my brand, where I think most CEOs are the face of their brand, but for me, it's even more so. So, um, if I'm not constantly working on my training and I'm not trying to make my techniques the best they can possibly be. Like when I get up in the morning, I think to myself, would I want to learn self-defense from someone who is not, up on their fitness and who is not constantly working on their training? And my answer would be no. So I'm usually training. I train a lot. Like I'm usually traveling to seminars to learn new techniques. My instructors and my students travel with me a lot of times. Um,
So
Okay,
your business never
I have a
stops.
question here. So who are your customers? No, we're constantly signing up more students. So I have enrollment pretty much around the clock. That's why I said most of the time I'm very busy. I have students come in. I would say a majority, though, that's a good question. A majority of our clientele are parents. So I do have adult students, but adult students, it's hard to get adult students for a few reasons. Parents are very busy. If both parents work, long hours, they might be exhausted or tired if they have 3 or 4 kids and they're running here and they're running there and picking up their children, and they may not want to train, from 7 to 8:30 at night, because our primary classes are kids classes, and those run from 5:30 to 7:30. How did I find my customers? So that's a great question. We're in a really great location because we're near the university, we're near apartments, and we're near schools. So a majority of our clientele are children, but really our clientele is the parents because they bring their children, and a lot of them bring their children for a variety of reasons. One of them is bullying. A lot of parents are concerned about their child being bullied at school, and want their child to just have the confidence to stand up for themselves. Most parents want their children to learn some kind of self-defense, and some parents, it could be also concentration. Martial arts is said to improve concentration, and we do have quite a few students with disabilities. So I've taught several students with autism, ADHD, ADD, things like that, and they do feel that martial arts really enhances their focus, and so that's really helped them as well.
Okay, so we have a trick question down here about entrepreneurship. So listen to the question and then give it some thought. The question is, what are some of the important intangibles your entrepreneur journey has taught you that you didn't learn in school? So we can't teach you everything in school. So you went through MBA, you went through PhD, but I'm sure you've learned some lessons that you didn't learn in school. I guess that's the question. So what are the intangibles? What did you discover you didn't know until you started running a business? How do you get a better internet connection, maybe?
Yeah, sorry guys, I cut out. I'm trying to get back on my phone. Can you hear me
Yes.
now? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so I'll try to answer that question. What are some important intangibles
Yeah.
your entrepreneur journey has taught you that you didn't learn in school or a book? You got to have a lot of grit. I'll be honest with you. Because it gets hard, you know, if you're working long hours, if you're running a business, you're going to be working long hours. It's just part of the program, and it's going to be tough. You know, COVID was really tough. We were unsure of when they were going to open up sports back, and that was really tough on us. We really adapted by going to the church nearby, and we had our students come to a church location, which we had a community sponsorship with them before, and that was good for us because it was close to our actual place of business. But that was something that we kind of just jumped into and decided to do. Some people may have been nervous to leave their physical location and go somewhere else. You just have to not give up. I would say you have to get to know your customer. And one thing my clients tell me is that when they go to if they go to another studio, they feel like a number, but when they come to Little Tigers, they feel like they're at home. So I think
Interesting.
developing a relationship with your parents and your students, if they feel a comfortable environment and they enjoy coming to class and they're excited about their learning, that makes the whole difference in the customer experience, right? Because then you want to keep coming back. So I would say that's an intangible. And yeah, just save your money, because a lot of business owners, they see that money coming in and it's like, oh, I want a vacation, or I want to go spend it, or I want to do this. And you never know when you have hard times. Maybe there's a disruption in the supply chain. That happened to us. We couldn't get uniforms. Believe it or not, we could not get belts during COVID. And I ended up kind of tapping into my network and calling some instructors from other locations. Hey, it's Selina. I've worked with you in the past. Is there any way that you can find a location that sells these belts that I can go get some? And I had a few that I knew that gave it to me at a discount because I had done business with them in the past and I had never stopped networking. That's definitely something you learn. I think you also get very good at reading people. I would say that's an intangible, because if you have a client that you're not quite got a good feeling about for whatever reason, you probably want to discourage yourself from working with that client. I'll be honest. So you have to be really good about reading people. Who do you want to partner with? Who do you not want to partner with? What do they stand for? How do they conduct their business practices? Are they ethical? I know we do a lot of courses in ethical practices in business, and that's actually really important to real life as well. If they're not ethical and they're greedy and they are only interested in the dollar and they don't care about the customer, that's a huge problem. So you have to really get good at, I would say, psychology of reading people.
Psychology seems to be the course most commonly missing in any program. A question just for clarification. You talked about having grit. What does that mean to you, grit? You said you have to have grit, and I agree, but I want to hear your definition. What is grit?
I think grit is perseverance, having perseverance, especially when you see that maybe clients have dropped off. So for instance, we did lose quite a bit of clients during COVID. That was very disheartening. I had grown the school to quite a big amount of clientele. And then to see the drop off, it's kind of heartbreaking. You're like, I've worked so hard the last, 9, 8 years. And now I've got to start. It's like starting over. So you got to have perseverance, and that's very important.
Awesome. Questions ask, how would you relay that? I'm not sure what that is. How would you relay that to potential clients as far as not wanting to work with them? Okay, so if you're firing a client and you're not going to hook up with a client, how do you relay that to the client, Selina?
That's a good question. So if I get a bad vibe from a client, we have to be very careful, of course, because we work with children. So, and
right.
we do children with disabilities as well. But if I get a bad vibe from a client, I usually just encourage them to go to another studio, or that maybe we're just not the place for them. So that's a way that you can say it in a professional manner, to kind of discourage them that your service maybe doesn't fit their needs.
Oh, you just don't tell them they're fired, huh? You're fired.
It is hard to fire a customer. You can fire, I guess you could say, if we were firing an employee, that would be different. Right. Definitely. But yeah, it's hard. You can't really fire a customer, but you can discourage them from using your service.
Huh. What's so far, how long is help me remember now, how many years have you operated the business?
12.
12 years. Okay. So how do you transition from brand new baby business owner to entrepreneur? What does that look like? When did you realize you had to move from simply running the business to being the motivation, the power, the energy behind that business as well? How did that happen for you?
That's a good question. I think when I realized that I was no longer just conducting trainings, I wasn't just an instructor anymore. Right. Because I had always volunteered. I loved coming into class. I loved working with the students. I loved volunteering. But then it changes, when you have the grandmaster calling you and saying, hey, we're doing events. We need you to put on a tournament. I had never put on a tournament before. I think that was my first time that I felt like I had changed to an entrepreneur. There's a lot of things you have to consider. You have the liability aspect when you're putting on a tournament, because you're inviting all of these people to your location, and they're fighting, and you have to have an on-staff nurse. You have to pay for the venue. You have to make sure that there's plenty of food available, and you have to make sure the parents are happy and that they feel that the environment is fair. If they feel like they go to a tournament and they feel like there's something odd about the judging, or the competition doesn't seem fair, that's right. A huge issue in retaining clients. And then, of course, that would be an issue for the dojo as well when you get back from the tournament. Well, that judge was obviously not fair. How do they run their operation? Like they don't even seem like their judging is fair out there. If this student is much better and then that student wins. And then of course, there's always some critique. So if you think everything is going perfect all the time, that's probably not normal.
just right? A delusion, right?
Yes. If you don't have someone like an employee or a client coming to you with a concern, that's probably not good. And at the same time, I welcome concerns, and if somebody needs to talk to me about something, we have an open door policy. So we want our employees to be happy because they're the face of our company, and we want them to have the best experience possible. So it's important that you're always listening to your workers as well as your clients.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, we just finished an MBA event, but we didn't have a medic on staff at the event. So I'm kind of happy about that, actually. I never really thought about that. That's an interesting question here. Have you contemplated training MMA fighters? Do you guys do that? Is that a different world?
That is probably a different world compared to traditional martial arts. I have
Okay.
done of boxing, basically because Grandmaster Fong was mostly a boxer, and he had a lot of influence when Bruce made his Jeet Kune Do. Part of it, the Jeet Kune Do, was based off of boxing and fencing, and a lot of people don't know that Leo was part of the inspiration for the boxing aspect of that. But yeah, we pretty much are traditional martial arts, so we're not boxers and we're not ground fighters. So I probably would not be wanting to train the next MMA fighter, but I mean, who knows? There's quite a few traditional artists that went into MMA fighting. GSP was a champion and he started out in traditional karate. So who knows? Maybe one of my students may be a champion yet. We will find out.
So there's a question, and I'm going to paraphrase the question to kind of fit here. So you took over the existing business, you started running it. I imagine that you attempted to run it the way that you observed it being run. But the question is, was there a point in your business where you realized that something needed to be changed, right? In other words, Selina put her handprints on it. And what was that? How far along were you, and what was that you changed?
I think the one thing I wanted to change was how we did our marketing. And we do rely a lot on word of mouth, but I wanted to do more networking with other martial arts instructors. And I also wanted to go to schools and put on performances, because I think when you are able to show your students' talent at some kind of school festival or school fair, the people see that and they go, wow, those kids are amazing. Like, they're trained really well. And it's really powerful of an impact when they see the talent versus just us talking about it. I can talk about knowing martial arts, but if you see me go out there and perform, it's like, oh, wow, she knows her stuff. She's good. So we've used that, and we've actually brought in quite a few students with our performances at the schools and our performances like at some of the different martial arts conventions.
It's interesting that you use the term performance. Help us understand, why do you call it performance as opposed to something else? Why do you use the word performance?
Well, I would definitely use performance because when we're out there, we want to be as safe as possible. So sometimes the students will do like a fake fight scene where they spar. Now, when we're in the studio, we usually have gear on. So we'll usually have our pads on, and then they can hit as hard as they want because they have the protective gear on. But a lot of times when we're out doing a performance, they don't have gear. So they have to have more of a performance aspect where they have a sense of control, so that they don't hurt one another.
So it is a scripted fight scene, boys and girls. So don't get too carried away. It is a performance. I like that a lot. As a business owner, what keeps you up at night? What's your biggest fear in business? You survived COVID. What the hell could stop you now, right? So as a business owner, what are your concerns now?
So if I answer that really honestly, which I'm going to, I'm single right now. I do see myself eventually settling down and having a family, and I am working probably all the time. And if I'm not working, I'm thinking about working, or I'm thinking of the next event I want to collaborate with an instructor on. So I think what keeps me up at night is just wondering how I'm going to balance family life when I'm older and probably have kids. That's going to be a whole different challenge, but I am up for it.
I suppose that's part of being a business owner. So let me just ask you kind of an off-the-cuff question here. You're a master, black belt, master teacher. Are you intimidating? When people meet you and they find out, is it like, oh my God, holy crap, she scares the hell out of me? I mean, I've talked to you a couple times. I find you quite charming, but I'm just curious, do people think of you differently once they find out that you could, whip their ass? I'm just curious about that.
I don't think they find me intimidating when they first meet me. I think they do find me intimidating after they've seen me do some techniques or a
Ah,
lot. Yes, that's true. A lot of times I am judged by my appearance. They're like, "Oh, this cute little girl can't do anything." And then usually one of my head instructors or real big guys will, Selena, come here, hit me, take me down, show them, because they get irritated too. They know how hard I work and what I can do. So yes, it definitely scares people after they see me fight.
Kirsten has that same problem, by the way. They think she's charming up front, but once they see her, they know something different. So.
I use words though. And sneakiness. There's no
So
blame.
question, Selena, are there instances where you have to pivot or change your product or service to cater to new groups of customers? Does your world change? The types of programs, the level, the ages, are there things about your business that you have to be flexible with and prepared to adjust to your market? And what are those things?
I would say being flexible and changing the lesson plans to adapt to the student for what the student's needs are. So for instance, we had a student with autism, and for a student with autism, it depends on the student, but for her particularly, she got very anxious if things were kind of chaotic. So she described it to us that she did not like dodgeball because dodgeball freaked her out because it's just all the balls were flying all at once and it really scared her and she didn't like it at all. But she liked martial arts because it was very structured. And so sometimes if you have a student like that, they don't take well to a certain exercise, then you can take them to the side and find out how to help meet their needs. And that's something we have to do a lot of the times to accommodate the student.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How often, okay, you say your clients are the parents predominantly bringing the youngsters. How connected are you to your clients, the parents, and how often do you talk to them, interact with them to kind of get a feel for, are we providing the service that you want? How often do you do that?
I would say every day, just asking them, how do you feel about your students' progress? And usually they're very happy. If they are concerned about the students' progress, they'll come to me. A lot of our students, if they do move on, it's usually because of an interest in another activity. And sometimes it's issues. So if a student goes to soccer, maybe they decide they like soccer better than martial arts. And so they move on to that. And then we do have some students that maybe come back after the season is over. So we have that happen a lot as well, where the student will come back after baseball season or soccer season is over. But it's not everyone's niche. It's not everyone's favorite hobby or thing to do. So I think that's one reason why some students drop off or we may not retain them. But for the most part, we have really high retention, which is really good.
Are goals important to you, Selena, as a business owner? Goals,
Yes.
You have goals?
Yes, you have to have a plan. Where do you see the business in 5 years? You have to have something to work towards. What do you want your mission statement to be? How do you want your employees to connect to your mission statement and represent it very well?
Okay. How about your team? How many folks on your team, your other instructors? You have a couple?
I have one main head instructor. He's 65. His name's Louis Avaro, and he's a wonderful teacher. And if I'm not here, I trust him to do pretty much every aspect of the business, and he can do it. So we're definitely a team. And our other instructors are actually a little bit younger. They were students that started in our program when they were around 6 years old, and now they're teenagers. But most of our teenagers that if they do get to black belts, they usually move on to pursuing college, some kind of higher education, or some kind of trade.
Okay. Okay, so you've got your goals, you've got your business plan. How often do you monitor that plan for changes, adjustments?
Probably every couple weeks.
Yeah, what time? Yeah, what time is it, right? Yeah, especially now with things changing as much as they do, I guess it has to be fluid. Can you realistically plan out for 5 years, or were you just sort of throwing that out there? I mean, I can't plan for 5 minutes, but you're talking 5 years. Is that realistic for you?
I think in some ways it's good to have the vision of where you want to be, but there's so
Okay,
many anticipated challenges that
of
can come.
course. Do you see multi-locations, another studio? Do you see that happening?
So my grandmaster has actually approached me about, he's much older.
Huh?
He's in his late 70s, and he's had some private conversations with me, approaching me about what I would think about running the organization itself. So that is
Oh,
a entirely different part of the business, because it's almost like if you had a franchise and you're not, maybe you work in the franchise, but you're not the one in charge of the entire franchise. Whereas
right,
he's in charge of all the studios. So even though we run our studio, he actually oversees us. We have to go to his location for trainings as well, to make sure that we're teaching how, we're teaching under the Universal Tongsto guidelines, and that we have to go through certain trainings about fairness and certain practices and all of that to represent his organization. So
right.
running a arts organization is totally different, because you're issuing the certificate. You're the grand master that signs off on the certificates that the master has approved. So it's a totally different thing being a grand master versus just the master of a school. You're actually running maybe 10 or 13 studios at one time. And that's a
Okay,
different.
so the question is that a business skill set, or is that a martial arts skill set, or is it a combination of both?
I would say it's a combination of both. To be a grand master, you have to be extremely well skilled in your art. Otherwise, other masters are not going to believe in your skill set, and they're not going to want to be under you, because you're the one that's ultimately in charge of them getting promotion and rank. And they want to have they want to ensure that the grand master running the organization is going to represent their studio well, because it's their business. It's kind of like their thing, like that's their baby, right? Like that they've spent years and years of their life dedicated to that business and running it. So now
Right.
you're in charge of issuing certificates to their students. You're in charge of setting up the annual tournament for their students and making sure that the training goes well. So they're putting a lot of trust into you as the grand master if they choose to go under you and be a part of your organization. So
Yeah,
that I would.
no pressure, Selena, just no pressure.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
So is there,
he's actually been grooming me for that position.
uh-huh.
So he's hoping that I take it over if he were to decide to retire. So maybe within the next 10 to 15 years, that'll be something that I would be doing as well. I would be the overseer of the organization and not just one of the masters.
Oh
I
my
have
goodness.
a follow-up
Oh.
question for that. So since you're being groomed to take over, have you decided to find someone to groom to take over your location or your studio? Or what would happen at that point?
Yeah, that's something I definitely think about. I have no concerns that Master Louis knows my teaching style. We've been working together for a long time, as long as I've been running the business. So he knows exactly how I do things. And he would be the person to, take over, so to speak, if there's something happened or I wasn't able to be here. But I
Mhm.
hope someone young, actually. It would be nice to find one of my students, or maybe in the future, probably one of my own children. That would be the ideal if they wanted to. But, not every kid wants to follow in their parents' footsteps, right? So probably a student.
Well, your particular path also has its challenges too. I mean, it's not just like grooming for a job. There's a whole level of command and respect that goes along with your particular type of business. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Well, you definitely have situations that we're not familiar with here, but there is a room full of folks here that are looking for a business career. So, I mean, if you're taking auditions or applications, there's folks in the audience that might be interested.
We're not taking applications at this time, but I would definitely encourage you all to pursue a career in business. I didn't foresee my success, and just persevere and pay attention in your classes. A lot of times as a student, we think, oh, this is textbook, I'm not going to use that. And that's not the case. I learned a lot in the MBA program, and I did use quite a bit of what my professors told me. So I would definitely consider it a huge value to you.
There is a question now that is asking, what do you think needs to be changed so that the business can run without you?
I think it could run without me, honestly, because I have trained some of my instructors. They know exactly how to run the classes, how to conduct the classes. I just choose to be more of an integral part because I think it's contributed to it being more successful.
Right.
If you're the one talking to the client, it's like, wow, the owner is here promoting their brand. That's a big deal to especially your customers. Like I was at, like, for example, I was at a sport of fitness because I work obviously in my industry, I work out a lot, but there was a new owner and he was trying to promote the new Juice It Up by my house. And I was really impressed when he got out and he said, hey, we're promoting our drinks, and here's a coupon if you want to get a free smoothie. It's get one free, buy one, get one free. And I was really impressed that it was the owner that was out there doing some of the legwork rather than having an employee do it. So
Right.
if you're willing to do every single job that you teach your employees and your clients, that says a lot about you as the owner. So it's not uncommon to see Master Palmer in the bathroom mopping the floor. I clean my own tatami. Traditionally, the master is not supposed to clean the tatami or the mat. It's supposed to be a student. But I think that if you are willing to do every single job that you expect your employees to do, that is really key, because sometimes you get bosses that they get a little bit of the big head and they're like, oh, well, I'm gonna have the employee do that. I don't need to go today. I don't need to be there. I'm going to take a day off. I'm going to take a ton of vacation. And then they come back from vacation and they're very frustrated. Like, I was only gone for 3 weeks. What happened? Why is there so many complaints? Why is there so much going on? The employees maybe had a concern that you decided not to answer on your phone and now they're frustrated. So you have to think about, being the boss doesn't mean, oh, I show up when I feel like it and I get to leave early. That's not what that means. That means you get to be the first one there and the last one to leave, because you need to know what's going on in your business and you need to know how to help the clients. And if you're not there, you can't do that.
So what advice, you've been in business for a while now, you've been successful at a level. What advice would you give the younger version of Selina Palmer?
I would just tell her, not to stress so much, because I think I stress a lot of things, that it was a little unnecessary. I was like, how am I going to do this? I don't have the experience, and you learn as you go. So to the new young ones, you learn as you go. You're going to make mistakes. You may even make financial mistakes. Don't beat yourself up over it. We all learn by trial and error, and you're going to learn by doing as well as through what you learn in school. So I think just being forgiving to yourself if you make a mistake or even a criticism, take that criticism. Maybe you lose that client and you never see that client again, and you just feel terrible because you did your best. And it's okay. What can you take from their criticism that you can do better next time? Rather than beat yourself up over, oh, I lost the client, I screwed up. Don't think like that. Okay, how can I use that knowledge to my benefit, and then go from there.
What's the biggest mistake you've made that you'll talk about? If you had a do-over, what would it look like?
I would say I spent in the beginning years, I spent a lot of money, and this sounds silly, on marketing materials, pamphlets, flyers, whatever I could get out to the public. And I spent more money on the imagery of the pamphlet. I wanted it to look the very best possible. Like,
right.
Wow, like this person really put, like, the graphics are amazing. Like this person, obviously was good in using their graphics, but you got to think about, who are you giving the flyers to? And are those people going to be able to come to the business and want to join? You know, are you in the right location? Is that where your clients go? You know, I went to the university and I was so excited. I was like, oh, I'm a college student. I'm teaching martial arts. So I'm gonna take the flyers to the students, and they're gonna want to come to class. And the truth of the matter is, students are busy. You know, a lot of Cal State students commute. They're driving to and from the university. Maybe they don't even have a car. Maybe they're taking the bus. There was a time when I didn't have a car, and going to a martial arts class is not necessarily part of their schedule. They're just trying to get their classes done and survive finals and make it through the 4 years. So that
Right.
probably that marketing idea did not work out.
So a question, you talked about the criticism. Sometimes you take it, sometimes you don't. How do you, and this is according to Selina Palmer, how do you decide if the criticism you received is good or bad?
I think all criticism is welcomed because you have to look at, is there some truth to it? You know, that's what I try to do. Instead of don't take things so personal as, oh, it was a personal attack. Just, is there truth to that? Why would they think that? What
Right.
brought them to that conclusion? And then you kind of go from there.
Okay, so weigh everything and then make a determination on its own merits, I say. So we talked about the failure part, but what's your biggest success? What are you most proud of?
I would say the student experience, because we've had so many parents that have came back thanking us because it helped their child. And I've had so many students come back over the years that I taught like probably 10 years ago. And I was really young when I started teaching just as an assistant instructor. And they come back and they tell me, Selina, I have a good family life because of the discipline you taught me in martial arts. Or I decided to pursue my career even though I was afraid I couldn't make it because you encouraged me. So I think it's my role as a teacher that I love the most. The business side is necessary to keep the teaching going, but my passion is definitely the teaching side of things. I love seeing the students progress on their athletic goals, on their academic goals. Our students that just got black belt, they started with us when they were 6, and now they're high schoolers and they're deciding where they're going to go to college. And a couple of them have 4.0 GPAs and they're very driven, and they attribute that to their martial arts training. And so we're very proud of that.
Interesting. So I would have thought that perhaps you would have gone after the being considered for Grandmaster, but I guess that's not it. But in that same vein, if let's say you were to be selected for that position and now you're running the entire operation, you're not going to have that satisfaction of impacting people directly. Is that fair? Or how are you going to work that in?
You can do both. You can still operate your own studio and still be a Grandmaster. It would just be more time as far as communication with the other studios. So actually, in some ways, you teach more because our Grandmaster, he comes to travel and teach us and conduct trainings with us about 2 to 3 times a year. So it's actually an increase in your teaching. It's just a little bit more demanding in the sense that you have to travel to the locations to work with the other schools.
And you can always sleep when you're dead, so it doesn't matter, right? You just work.
So teaching, I will say the teaching aspect doesn't feel like work because I do love to train. We just got back from a training session in LA on Sunday, and we were training for 4 hours, and the kids loved it. It was something different because their style is different than ours. So the kids really enjoyed it. One of our adult students went and he really enjoyed himself. It was fun. So it definitely sometimes feels like more a vacation to me because I enjoy meeting new people and getting to go learn new techniques.
Awesome. Love it. All right, we're wrapping up here before maybe we take some live questions from the audience. So final words of wisdom, Master Selina Palmer, what do you tell wannabe business owners?
I would tell you to go for it. Whatever dream you have, don't give up on it. No matter how silly it may sound to someone else, or if someone put you down. I mean, if you look at Walt Disney, he was homeless at one point in time, and when he showed them his draft of Mickey Mouse, they laughed at him and they said, why would anyone want to care about a rat? And they kicked him out of the office. And that happened multiple times.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we got a bunch of people going around Disney wearing Mickey ears.
yeah.
So
Go figure, right?
don't ever think that your dream is too far-fetched or you can't attain it. You know, whatever you set your mind to do, you can attain it if you work hard and you are determined.
Okay, awesome. Well, another question here in the chat for fun. Do you watch martial art movies? And if you do you have a favorite?
So I actually know, that's a good question. I know the producer of the current Cobra Kai series, and I really like the whole Karate Kid cast. So, they're really cool. And I really do like the new Cobra Kai series. I think they did a great job on the project. And I like the old Karate Kid the best, but I'm definitely a Karate Kid fan for life.
Who'd have thought? So who's a hero in the martial arts business? Who's your hero? You look at somebody and go, wow, that lady is amazing. Who is that?
So I would say my hero was definitely both of my teachers. My first teacher was Master Jackson, and he's passed, so I can't choose him. And my second would be Leo Fong. Before he passed away, he was just a huge inspiration to me and many martial artists throughout the world. I got the privilege of getting to go to his seminars and train with him on a regular basis, and he trained a lot of foreigners. So we actually did a Zoom session for Paris. We did it for the Paris Jeet Kune Do School, and we trained them through Zoom because we were supposed to actually travel to Paris for, but it was during COVID. So I would say Leo Fong was definitely my hero, but I would also say Cynthia Rothrock if I could give somebody that was living. She's known as the Queen of Martial Arts, and she's really amazing. She's got probably a black belt in like 7 styles.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, she's.
All right, we are at the end of our time frame. I'm getting the bump from the producer. So are there any other questions in the audience from the folks? Going once, going twice. Then at this time, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Selina, you are amazing. You've been a great guest. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We're probably going to have to ask you back because you have a couple of areas that you would love to talk about, and we're going to probably work that in and bring you back in the future if that's okay.
That sounds great.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to give it back to. Did you save any voice there, Ms. Henson?
I got a little bit back. So thank you everyone for coming. We appreciate it. We'll be posting this on YouTube if you want to review anything. And then Selina is in San Bernardino. If you feel like taking one of her classes, please go sign up and support. So thank you again, everyone.